Hi everyone. If you've been following the YawVR story since the Yaw2 Kickstarter, you'll understand that Yaw's been going through something of a production hell period. This video isn't a review because they've just recently announced a 2.5 hardware revision with a lot of changes that are hopefully beneficial for the community or for the buyers. We're yet to hear reviews from people who actually have those units yet. I have been told that I will receive one, but I'm not sure when, so I can't really talk to it yet. But I wanted to cover some of the issues that I've seen on my own unit. In my earlier videos, it was all focused around assembly and setting up of software. And you'll notice that my videos have dropped off because when I started to try to use the unit for playing games, some issues started to crop up as other people like Hega on the Discord had a lot more issues because he was playing earlier than I was. So the first issue is probably one that Hega pointed out, which was scratches on the side of the pitch unit. And so these scratches, I believe the cause of this is when rotating and pitching at the same time, I believe that the pitch unit slides sideways on the wheels because it's moving while the bottom is moving. So it's not constrained to stay with the rotation. So in the video, you can see these scratches that I've identified. They're only on the front part of the Yaw 2DOF platform. And I believe putting some acetal discs in that area would probably stop that from scratching the pitch unit. So acetal is polyoxymethylene, but otherwise known as acetal, and that's temperature resistant, and it's used as lubricating means in runners of drawers and sliding doors and rollers on sliding doors. It's even used as bearings. So the next issue is which was also one that Hega pointed out, which is the screws underneath in the 2DOF platform. Mine are all countersunk in this area that I'm pointing out, but in the newer units, there's a configuration of inner countersunk and then cap head, cap head, cap head. And I think that cap head on the outside bottom, as far as where I'm pointing, is what's causing the scratching. I believe if they swapped the cap head and the countersunk one around, that it would resolve the issue. But ideally, they'd just replace both of those with countersunk screws and it would resolve the problem. Next up, we have the USB hub, a constant source of issues for people initially. Yaw have switched to using virtual here, so it's wireless USB, which has improved things. But at least in my USB hub, the only way I could get a reliable USB connection was just to plug a powered USB hub into the Yaw hub. So I would suggest just remove the USB hub from the Yaw unit and have a direct USB pass-through for users to plug their own USB hub into. I've designed a circuit board for this and I'm more than happy to provide that to Yaw. Next up is the side rail. For me, this was much too low and I ended up hacking up a 3D printer and making my own, and you can see it's much higher. Now, the lower side rail might actually be okay for a gearbox or a handbrake, but that's maybe 50% or less of users. So a lot of them will be wanting to use it for flight simming where they need the sticks much higher for an ergonomic position. Next one was pointed out by Gunpilot, who's a friend of mine with a DOF Reality unit. And the tray table is quite wide. And once you have, well, at least with mine, with the higher up rails to put my sticks on, what we see is that it's quite difficult to get in and out. If you made that tray table not as wide, and it's commonly way less wide than what this one is because it only usually has a steering wheel on it, then it will be a lot easier to get in and out of the chair. Or another issue that had been pointed out by another user was that so this was a quite tall user, and he has had the connection points on the footrest break twice. Now, I think in his case, this is probably exacerbated by the fact he had quite hefty pedals with an up to 90 kilogram load cell on the brakes. So if you think about that, if you're racing and you're pushing, he said he didn't have it adjusted to 90 kilos, but if you're pushing very hard on the brake, you're putting an extreme amount of force on the mounting points for the footrest. But in my video here, you can see that Gun Pilot, who's 6'2", I don't quite have it fully extended, but if you did fully extend it, it's a lot of pressure on a small area. Okay, here's an issue that's happened. I've had 2 foot plates, and you'll see here there's a lot of holes, but due to the way this cutout is, it actually fouls on the side sort of flat plate, not allowing you to lift it up into the full range of motion. So I think they just need to make that cutout just a slightly bit wider on each side, and then it should be able to slide up and down into full range of motion. And then now we get into some specific issues that have happened to me, which are resolved or theoretically resolved in the 2.5 revision, which is at one stage I had the chair dramatically pitched backward and the gears were just grinding. I had to get my son to turn the unit off, and you can see in this photo that there is a small bit of damage to the last tooth on the pitch unit. If everything else is resolved, I don't think this little bit of wear on the tooth is a big issue, but that it could happen was an issue, and there is some users that are scared that something like this might happen. I'll explain why this happened on my unit after we troubleshooted it. And to be fair, Yaw have been amazing with troubleshooting for everyone that I'm aware of, apart from some potential not replying to comms quickly enough, but when they do reply, they do an excellent job. So I had Zolt, who's the CEO, and Balzas, who's the next in charge, on a call helping me troubleshoot it. And what they told me to do was put some washers between the posts and the PC board that has the Hall effect sensor on it. Unfortunately, that didn't resolve the issue because the shaft that spins the magnet is constrained in a way that it can't come away from the Hall effector sensor easily, but it wasn't constrained in a way that stopped it going towards the sensor. And so my solution, which I thought of, was to create this white piece of plastic that I 3D printed. It's just 3mm thick in my instance, and glue that in place to stop the shaft hitting the Hall effect sensor. Okay, so now I'm going to go on to a bit of footage showing the current issue I'm having. So I am getting fairly frustrated in that I've had this chair in some form of another since before December last year, and I've still not really been able to use it to play any games for any length of time. Initially, it was not understanding how to use the software, and then once I had all that sorted out, which is what I've created videos about, and I'm still fairly certain that that material is relevant. But once I started to test and I had that issue where it pitched back dramatically, then now I have an issue with roll. And so this clip of me playing Dirt Rally 2 is going to illustrate that problem. Yep. All right, so I'm going to do all of the things you need to do for Infuse. So calibrate the center in Oculus. Move this up just because of the way that works. So calibrate center in Oculus, calibrate center in Steam VR. And then motion compensation, Infuse VR, calibrate, start. The chair is very creaky. All right, so close that. Have to go back to game library and start. Start plugin. Okay, so I'm going to do a free roam. And what I'm trying to do here is just illustrate an issue that I've had, which appears to be a roll sensor and perhaps still something with pitch. So there was a button to recenter the view, wasn't there? That doesn't seem quite right. Alright, so just then it swung either side when I wasn't. That's totally swinging the wrong direction, feels like. Hard to say. So now I've rolled and I'm not rolling, clearly. And I'm pitching when I shouldn't be pitched back. I'm back to flat. Alright, so this is what I wanted to illustrate. I'm stuck rolled when the car is still flat on the ground. And when I accelerate, it pitches back quite a bit. Oh, there we go. Whoa. I don't know. No, it's lost calibration and I'm rolled sideways. So that's the test I needed to do. We'll quit back and do something else. All right, so yeah, this is what it thinks is the centered position. Can you turn it off? Hang on. So let me just reiterate, this is not a review because the hardware has changed and I think it's unfair to do a review of the current hardware that I have, which is quite early in the production cycle. But it is showing issues I've had and also showing issues that I think some of which may not have been addressed in the 2.5 revision. So it's as much as a resource for YawVR to look at and potentially make some additional changes to improve the unit. So thanks for watching and see you soon. Cheers.